You're listening to Factual America.
The public story was the story that the national media adopted very quickly. And it was that this was a robbery or a carjacking that went wrong. And, that these, the statements were made that these two boys saw, James Jordan was driving back from Wilmington, which is where the Jordan family is from, and to their home in Charlotte, which is about a 3.5 hour drive or so, and had gotten tired. It was late at night and pulled over off the side of the highway. And these two young men, tried to attempt to rob him, and it went wrong, and they shot him, and in cold blood. And that was the public story. I think one of the things you have to look at is, even at the time, there were a lot of questions about that story. And what those questions ultimately resulted in has been decades of conspiracy theories. And, when things don't add up in a criminal case, despite the public narrative that you're being told, a lot of times it does lead to these kind of conspiracy theory nature, things emerging, and ultimately there were things that didn't add up. But it's just not the things that everyone thought they were. Everyone thought, oh, this must be tied to some larger narrative. And, and series like The Last Dance have talked about this already. And, that was not kind of diving into the conspiracy nature of this was not our intention here. Our intention was to discover the truth of what transpired and how that was obscured. But, it did give birth to all these theories and rumors, and that's because a lot of things, even at the time, didn't add up and make sense. It's just not what people thought it was.
Okay.
Those things weren't adding up because of something different.
Well, and I want to talk some more about that if we may, but one last thing about the Jordans on this one is that I thought was interesting. I don't know, I'm a bit slow, but I hadn't really put two and two together looking back on that time. But you kind of, even one of the final episodes, you talk about how this affected Michael Jordan. And I never had even really necessarily tied it directly to his retirement and picking up baseball and that era of his career.
Yeah, I think the Jordan family, this is the greatest loss of their lives. Yeah. It's if that happens to anyone, and I think because that changes you in a way. Mm-hmm. And I think for us, in approaching this story, we always kept that in mind, and we wanted to approach this with a great sensitivity. This is the patriarch of their family, and he was taken away from them in cold blood, in a matter of moments. And you have to kind of look at the humanity of those situations and treat them with great respect. And, I do believe, Michael's retirement shortly thereafter James's murder, whether it was conscious or subconscious, we'll never know. Yeah. But James's favorite sport was baseball. He wanted to be a baseball player himself, and he loved when his kids played baseball. So I think, one of the journalists that we interviewed made that connection. And I think that there's, something to look at there.
Yeah. As you said, I think you mentioned James Jordan almost went pro as a baseball player. And I think the series says at the end, I have watched the whole thing. You have reached out to the Jordans, and they've always been, very private about this in a very, I would say, dignified way, to be honest, about the whole affair. So unsurprisingly, they didn't say, yes, we'll go on camera or anything.
Of course. Yeah. We felt, my partner in the series is Capital Broadcasting Company, which owns WRAL, which is one of the largest news networks in North Carolina and the largest in the Triangle area, which obviously covers Chapel Hill and the University of North Carolina. Right. So they've been covering Michael as a athlete since the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah. And there's a long-standing, respect between everyone involved. And out of that respect, we wanted to offer the opportunity to say, we understand that this is difficult, and we understand that why you most likely will not want to, but if you wanted to participate and comment, we would love to talk to you about it. Michael and the family have only talked about this a handful of times over the past 3 decades. So they through a spokesperson, respectfully declined to participate in an interview, and we've respected those wishes. And like I said, they're treating this with a degree of respect. It's such a heinous crime. It's such a sad situation for everyone involved, and such a great degree of loss. That was the only way you could honor this story, was treating it with respect.